Good evening, everyone. We are back continuing I want to say our Wizard of Oz retrospective, but this could also be our horror/Halloween retrospective, right? We're talking about Return to Oz.
It
Cool class.
reminds me of Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland. They go back and it's all creepy and it's all weird and it's kind of things have happened and you're like, oh, I've been gone too long.
This is handled much better though, because that other film felt like it wanted to be both at once, whereas this is like a sort of like a definitive sequel.
Speaking of horror movies, what was that horror movie? But it wasn't. It was a kids' movie where I can't remember who they were, but they go into like a cinema and there's like two like dead bodies with them, and they're like watching like a movie.
I only remember. Well, it's not a kids' movie. I remember An American Werewolf in London does that.
No, it's a kid. It was genuinely. I swear it was a kids' movie, but like I don't know where it was, but it was like a horror kind of thing, and they're in a cinema and they're sitting there and there's like 2-3 dead bodies with them watching this movie, and then they leave and then the whole world is like destroyed. It's really weird, but that's a kids movie. I can't remember what it is, but it's a kids movie.
If anyone knows what that is, if anyone knows what Dale's talking about, sound off in the comments. But yeah, we're talking about Return to Oz, the 1985 dark fantasy film directed by Walter Murch. I think at the time this came out, it'd be interesting to know which film has sort of unseated this. It had the record for the most amount of time between an original film and a sequel coming out.
Is Mary Poppins now?
It could be. Yeah, because Mary Poppins was that the that was the 60s, wasn't it? It was the 50s or 60s? Mary Poppins.
And the second one was what, 20 when?
Oh, Mary Poppins was 1964 apparently. And then Mary Poppins Returns was 2018. Yeah, so that could be.
Absolute dog shit. Like, that was I don't know why I even watched it.
So this is sort of like an unofficial sequel. It's sort of difficult to pin down a term as what you'd call this. A spiritual successor, maybe. I know it gets thrown around a little bit.
Titanic 2.
Oh, they did make that, didn't they? Yeah, they did do a Titanic 2. Yeah, this is an interesting one. So this was made by Disney, which I have to keep reminding myself every time the film opens. It's Walt Disney Pictures Presents. I'm like, oh yeah, this is when, Disney had like 85. This was around the time of Black Cauldron, wasn't it? Was it around that kind of time?
So, yeah.
Another cult classic, very, very dark film in and of its own right. This, unfortunately, lost a lot of money. This was done on a budget. This was a film where the budget kept ballooning as production went on. 28 mil budget, and it only made about 11 mil, which is a significant loss. And when you see the film, I can probably understand why. I don't know how this film was marketed. If it was marketed as this is a fun musical adventure sequel from that fun film from the 30s that you remember, and then people go and see it, and you've got Dorothy getting shock therapy. You've got a headless Princess Mombi that has a closet full of heads. You've got a terrifying Gnome King. I can probably understand why, like, even just visually, it looks sort of like a lot more sinister and darker, but that's what I absolutely love about it. I love this era of fantasy films, the 80s, sort of like dark fantasy films, stuff like Legend, Never-Ending Story, yeah, Labyrinth, and this falls right into that category for me. I absolutely love films like this. And I agree with Kurt the Gamer's opinion. So maybe it is an unpopular opinion, but not with me. Kurt the Gamer says unpopular opinion, but I prefer this movie over the 1939 Wizard of Oz. I do too. I have to sort of separate the two though, because if we're talking about sort of like lavish filmmaking, sets, props, costumes, everything like that, then I've got to give it to the original, and the music is a classic. But I said this to you earlier, if I have to pick between the original Wizard of Oz and Return to Oz, which one I want to throw on and just watch and have a great time with, it's always probably going to be this one. So yeah, no, I agree with you, Kurt.
It was the thing is, it's obviously a lot darker, so it's kind of like you say, you have to separate them. So it's I don't know. I don't know which one I'd say I'd prefer. It's a really strange thing. But there are some. There's quite a few things in it that are more book accurate. I've not read anything past the first Wizard of Oz, so I don't know fully everything. But like, like Dorothy is much younger. She's a lot closer to the book version.
Yeah.
It's things like that. Like I say, the first one, sorry, with like the witch and stuff. Obviously, she's in the book. She's got one eye. In the movie, she's like way more screen time. She's green. She's like they changed quite a lot. In this, it's more sort of as things were. Like I say, I've not read past it, so I could be very, very wrong in saying it's like, oh, but this has changed. This is, do you know what I mean? But there is a lot of things that are more accurate to what the book actually was and what the story that was intended.
Yeah. So this
like amalgamation of two. It's the second one, The Wondrous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. Those are the two, aren't they?
Yeah, Marvelous Land of Oz and Ozma of Oz. But apparently, there's aspects. Is there one called like Tik-Tok of Oz or something? If they've got that
there is.
character.
There's also fucking the Tin Man up there, fucking everything.
There's Jack the Pumpkinhead.
There's the big purple dildo of Oz. There's everything.
So yeah, I mean, we've got Kurt in the comments, so I'm sure Kurt's going to let us know how accurate this is to the books and things like that. But from what I've heard on the grapevine, sort of tonally, and even, you could even say like visually, I suppose, maybe as well, but definitely tonally, this is a lot closer to the books than the original film even was.
I have a question though. Why is Dorothy considered gay? Like, have you not heard that? You know that the phrase of friend of Dorothy being gay people?
Is it just because it's, you know, like lavish musicals? It's kind of camp and theatrical, or
why there's a, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like,
yeah, friend of Dorothy is the term, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. I first heard that in Little Britain. I first heard that, and they were talking about it, but like it is a thing. But I wonder why that's such a thing.
I thought it was just to do with like musicals and the theatre, and you know,
it being the original movie rather than the book. I don't know.
It's probably on the musical. I think Judy Garland was also like a big sort of like gay icon, I think, as well. So it's probably to do with that, I would imagine.
And now Ariana Grande is too.
There you go. It's all connected to the Wizard of Oz, the gayest musical in the world. Trying to think about my history with Return to Oz. I can remember the first time I watched it. It was at my uncle's. The same uncle that I mentioned has got like thousands of VHS, but I think this was recorded off the TV. And what he does is, whenever he got a video, he would bring his typewriter out and he'd sort of like document it. He writes all the videos and DVDs out. He's got like a massive list. So I'd say like, oh, I want something to watch. And he'd like chuck me this like massive page book that he'd put together. And he says, have a look through that, have a look through the titles and see what you want. And I must have just settled on Return to Oz. And I think we looked for the video for a while. Then he was like, oh, it was, we can't find it up there, it's probably recorded off the TV. So we searched through that pile of VHS cassettes and we found it. So this had like all ad breaks and stuff in when I was watching it, but I was just immediately captivated by it. And I've always said that I do like those fantasy films and those 80s films in general that have that inherent level of danger to it. And I did watch this at a fairly young age. I was probably a teenager. I was reading that Kurt watched the film sort of like around the same time. I'd probably be like early teenage years when I watched this for the first time. And I was just hooked. I loved the danger of it. I loved how creepy the Wheelers were. I was probably at an age where I was still watching it and still getting creeped out by it a little bit. So I could have been like 11 or 12 actually, now thinking about it. But I just loved it straight away. And I didn't see many people talking about it. It was sort of like this weird, oh my God, they made a sequel to The Wizard of Oz. And it's probably the first example of a film that I ever watched where I was trying to wrap my head around the concept of, well, this is meant to be a sequel, but she doesn't look like Judy Garland and Dorothy's a lot younger in this, but it's set after. How can that be? The Tin Man, Scarecrow, and Cowardly Lion look different. Oz doesn't look the same, and my head was confused. There was a big question mark. It was trying to process this being a sequel to the original film, but it's almost completely it is totally different actors, visuals, everything, and it was made by that, like, by design. It was very strange to wrap my head around that as a kid.
With because I saw it first time on TV. I was flicking through channels and it came on, and I was like, and I think I first noticed it because they were talking like it was a different set of characters, because obviously you got Pumpkin, you know, blah 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 blah. Like, do you know what I mean? You've got that, and I at first was like, because I think I saw the title come up and I was like, Oz. I was like, is it not with? And I was like, it must be something completely different. They called her Dorothy, and I was like, is it? And I was really confused. I was like, is this the same thing? And it was really weird. But yeah, no, I was the same with it. It reminds me as well, the kind of style of it, of Magic Roundabout. They've got that kind of look, haven't they? The kind of characters.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, there's some great prop work in this, puppets and things like that. I think Jim Henson's son, is it Brian Henson, does the voice of Jack the Pumpkinhead and probably did a lot of the puppetry in this film as well.
Why is Pumpkin People always called Jack Pumpkinhead?
Yeah, I actually wonder if this is where
King.
Tim Burton got the idea for Jack Skellington. Yeah, the Pumpkin King, because it's almost. But I'd seen Nightmare Before Christmas, I think, before this film, so I was like, that's like the same character.
Yeah, I did wonder that. I don't. Yeah.
One thing that, well, there's a lot of things I love about this film, and over the course of this review, we'll probably discuss all of them. But I like that the Scarecrow, Tin Man, and Cowardly Lion are in the film, but they're not front and center. It would have been so easy for them to just reuse all of those characters again. I like that we have a complete fresh party of characters in this. We've got, like Bellina, Gump, Tik-Tok, Jack the Pumpkinhead. It's just nice to have that new cast of characters. Like, it just keeps it fresh, and I like all the characters in this. I think their designs are really, really cool. I love the puppetry behind Tik-Tok. I want to say, was it the guy who did the puppetry for Admiral Akbar? I feel really bad now because I actually met him and I was talking to him about Star Wars, and then I feel like we got onto the subject of Return to Oz, and I didn't know that he did the puppetry behind it, and I think he mentioned Tik-Tok.
Was he the Liverpool one?
Yes, this was a while back though. This was a couple of years ago.
I feel like he was there at one I was at, and I saw him sat there, and he just looked really bored, and no one was with him. I feel like he was on one of the. It was really strange, and I was like, I feel like more people should be there, and no one was.
Yes, I was right. Yeah, Tim Rose. Yeah, he played the character of Tik-Tok. He did all the head and arm movements for it, and then another person was obviously operating the suit from the inside. That's cool. Yeah, no, he was talking about Return to Oz, and it blew my mind. And I think he said that was the creation that he was the most proud of, was his work with the Tik-Tok character. And I think he said he doesn't know the fate of that prop, which is quite unfortunate, because I imagine if someone's got that lying around, that'd be a pretty cool relic to have.
Yeah, it's basically like Madeleine McCann, isn't
it? Yeah.
I know the fate.
Jesus Christ. Yeah.
It all comes back to Wizard of Oz.
It does. Yeah. But yeah, I guess what I like about this is that it is completely different, and they made it like that by design. It's a gamble. Unfortunately, it's a gamble that financially didn't pay off, but I do like how this film has found its way back in, and it's acquired that cult status among fans of it. I was reading a bit about the history of this, and there isn't like an extensive history to it, but there are some cool little nuggets here and there. So apparently Disney had bought the rights to the remaining Wizard of Oz books in the franchise, which, let's be fair, is a fucking lot of them. So they had a lot to play with. And apparently they bought this in sort of like the early to mid 50s. And they were going to produce a live action film with it, which was going to be called The Rainbow Road to Oz, which ultimately never got made. Rolls around to 1980, and they're about to lose the rights to it, because usually when a studio purchases rights to something, they have an expiration date on when they need to essentially keep making a film.
Doing that, though, and then just not using it.
Yeah, I know. You've got all of this to one of the biggest films ever, especially at that point. I know the original Wizard of Oz didn't initially hit it off on its initial release, but certainly by that point, through subsequent re-releases, it was, one of the biggest films ever. So you feel like they would have jumped at the chance to do something with it. But anyway, they didn't. 1980 rolls around, and they're about to lose the rights to it. So essentially, Return to Oz is just a film that was made to maintain the rights, ultimately. And we still see that now. I remember 20th Century Fox did that with Fant4stic, which was terrible and awful and rushed, and just probably one of the worst films I've ever seen. I think Warner Brothers did the same, actually, with War of the Rohirrim, that Lord of the Rings anime that came out a year or two ago. That was made just to retain the rights to Lord of the Rings, and probably The Hunt for Gollum is something in a similar vein to that as well, that's coming out in 2027. So studios still do it now. I think that's true for a lot of IPs. It's like, I think some like Marvel characters, if they don't produce a film or don't include that character somehow. Yes, they are. They are now. Yes, I agree.
So the second one, so.
What, sorry?
I gave up after Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, you didn't make it far at all. Yeah. So Walter Murch comes along in 1980 and says he wants to produce a theatrical film sequel to the original Wizard of Oz, but he wants it to be its own thing. But they did pay a large fee to get the Ruby Slippers because they were an MGM original creation. I know in the book, I think they're silver shoes, I think, aren't they?
Yeah.
The silver shoes?
Yeah, they're basically like what they did, because they've done that in Wicked. They haven't got the ruby slippers or anything in it. So it's interesting that they paid all that money for the ruby slippers. I get it, because they kind of wanted that spiritual successor. But if they were going to do that and there wasn't really like, okay, we're going to do this, and there wasn't a big plan, it was just, well, we need to do something. It feels a bit weird, doesn't it, that they paid all that money where it's like this could have been a much cheaper thing. And I personally think the silver would have gone better in this world.
But, yeah, maybe, but they're iconic, aren't they? Because that's all we've known, really. They've permeated the pop culture and things like that. I think people would probably be shocked going to the Wizard of Oz books after watching that film, going, "Oh, the ruby slippers aren't in this. Like, what the fuck?" Like, you'd think something like that is a huge pivotal thing. Kurt the Gamer mentions, "I don't view this as a sequel to the 1939 movie. It has the ruby slippers, but they're mainly there just as a homage." Yeah, I guess if I was going to compare this film to a slightly more recent film that's essentially has to deal with the same limitations and it being a sequel and it's trying to be its own thing, but also tied to the original film, was Doctor Sleep, which was the sequel to The Shining that came out.
Is that good?
I've heard the director's cut is very good. I didn't mind it. I think it's fine. That film had to deal with so much. It was almost like an impossible task, because Doctor Sleep, the movie, Doctor Sleep, the book, is a sequel to The Shining book. Now, Stanley Kubrick's film of The Shining is pretty much nothing like the book at all. He just went off script, did his own thing. That's why Stephen King really hates that film, is because it just, Stanley Kubrick doing his own version of The Shining. So the Doctor Sleep movie had to both be an accurate adaptation of the book, but also serve as a sequel to the film version of The Shining. So it was caught in this awkward in-between of trying to be faithful to its original source material, but it can't be truly faithful because it's also having to follow on from the main film that everyone knows, which itself was totally different from the book. So because of that, there are some aspects that they work in from the Stanley Kubrick films, which probably wouldn't be in the Doctor Sleep book, but they had to put it in there to appease the movie-going audience because that's what they know from the Shining movie. And I imagine the ruby slippers are an equivalent of that with this film. It's just like tipping your cap to that original film that came out and nothing more than that. And I think the film still functions fine, even though they include that from the original film. It does muddy the waters, I suppose, a little bit, and probably was why I was very confused as a kid. I still get confused now with spiritual successors. I'm just like, look, pick a lane. Let's not be sort of like half in and half out, like commit. Either it's something totally new or it's a continuation. But
it's kind of, I mean, Arkham Origins was kind of like that, wasn't it? Where it was kind of like a bit different, but, like with the origin of the Joker and so it was all a bit sort of like it felt like it should have been, but there were just elements that were like, yeah, but we already established this. You've kind of, It's a
loose continuity, isn't it? You get franchises like that. I mean, the James Bond films are big for that loose continuity between the films, and there's aspects to the character that do continue, but actors are changing, decades are changing, but it's a weird thing. The X-Men films as well, you just give up after a while. You just give up.
Films I've ever seen. They are.
Some are great, some are so good, but some are really fucking terrible as well. Yes, really bad.
They were just boring.
Oh, I loved them. I love me some X-Men. Love it.
Oh, not X-Men. Sorry, I was thinking of Fantastic Four. Sorry, no. Different. Don't worry. I'll ignore what I said. Logan was good. That was a good movie.
Yes, it was. Very, very good. What this film reminds me of a little bit is the Narnia books. Now, I've never read all of them, but to my knowledge, each book is a sequel, but like they return to Narnia and the world has completely changed. Cair Paravel has like crumbled and it's been laid to waste, and we don't really know why. It's just happened. And it's almost like the excuse of the writer to come up with a new story each time. And you don't really have to go into the minutiae or the details of how things have changed and why there's a different race of people there, you know, or whatever happens to
you
be.
get that with. I mean, I've only read the first two Narnia books. When they go the second, I mean, I've not seen the second Narnia movie or anything. I don't know, but I've only read the first two books, and they go in the second time, and they go through like a different method. They don't go through the wardrobe, but they do say like, "Oh, this is when we ruled over as kings and stuff, and we lived here for years." But it was like they went there like fucking years and years and years and years later. So time moved differently. So it was kind of like, but yeah, it's kind of like going back into that world. Like you say, you can kind of revisit it. Now, Alice in Wonderland it wasn't like that because she didn't see it as the same world, but it was basically her Wonderland again when she goes through the looking glass. It was just a completely different one. So that kind of thing, yeah, it's kind of been done like that, where they're just kind of like, it's the same thing, but it's not because we want to make it. So yeah, I can kind of see all those kind of things.
It's like we get there and we know that the Gnome King is now the leader of the land, and you know, if we watch the original film, we're like, who the hell's the Gnome King? The yellow brick road, significantly less yellow looking bricks, I will say, in this. You know, when she picks up the brick from the damaged road, and it's just like this like really dull sort of snot yellowy brown brick. I'm like, it's not got the same shine to it. You know, like the house is there that she fell from, but it's in a completely different area. Everything looks visually different, so it helps to separate it from that original film. But it does kind of throw you into this state of, oh yeah, this is like what has happened. You know, there's a whole history of this conquest that's happened, and then later on in the film, it's just like, oh, the ruby slippers fell into the Gnome King's possession, and with the power of those ruby slippers and Princess Mombi's help, his been able to enslave the land and turn everyone to stone, and he now rules on high, essentially. And you're like, oh, okay, cool.
And he looks like Zeus. And he
yeah.
does the exact same thing the White Witch does in Narnia. He turns everyone to stone.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
It's another comparison.
There was a moment at the end, you know, when all's well and Dorothy brings everyone back to life and whatnot, and all the people that are frozen come back to life. There was a moment where it cuts to a wide shot of the ring of dancers that have all lost their heads because Mombi's taken them. And I thought, oh God, they're going to turn back to like human, but they're all going to be like have severed heads. Like, this is going to be horrific. And then they reappear, but they reappear with their heads. I was like, oh, thank God. Okay.
Don't you find that the older you get and the more you see these villains that do stuff where they just hate people, more you actually go, I can understand. When you're a kid, you think, oh, they're evil. But then you get older, you go, you know, you got a lot of sense. And then when you get all the backstories where they try and you show that the characters are misunderstood and all that, you go, oh, but no. Whereas when you're a kid, it works. When you get older, you go, yes, no.
I kind of felt that a little bit with, they do a similar thing to the original Wizard of Oz film where all the people that appear in Oz as various different characters appear in the real world before she goes to Oz. So when I was actually thinking, I mentioned this to you earlier, we talked about The Exorcist yesterday, and I thought, how weird, like we talked about Exorcist yesterday, and then today we talk about Return to Oz. Is there anything that connects them? And I'm watching scenes in Return to Oz of this, you know, this sweet little girl getting this like horrible scientific shock therapy and horrible experiments on her and whatnot to get the possessions out of her head, the images. I'm like, oh my God, it's the exact same film. But I did feel bad for the one who plays Mombi, but like the real world version of Mombi, like the head nurse or whatever her name is, because you know she's just doing a job. And at the time, they thought that kind of therapy helped people. I know it's like absolutely barbaric now when you look back at it, but they didn't know that at the almost turn of the century.
They used to think cigarettes were healthy.
Yeah, exactly. And there's this huge mass breakout like Shutter Island where all the patients escaping and you can hear them like screaming and freaking out like Arkham Asylum, and it's terrifying. And then it's raining and stuff, and Dorothy runs off, and she's probably thinking like, oh, like her mom's coming to pick her up in the morning. Like we can't say that she's just ran off or drowned or something. So she's there in her skirts trying to like chase after her in the torrential rain and going through woodland and stuff. I'm like, she's not getting paid extra for this. You know, she's doing like a 9 to 5. She's just trying to make her way. This is the career path that she chose. And then at the end, we see that she's in like a prison wagon. I'm like, they're doing probably barbaric stuff, but again, at the time, it wasn't. It was, you know, people thought it was this brand new revolutionary therapy.
I mean, you could say that about the people who, you know, in the what's his name, Mr. Candy in fucking Django. So if it's time, you know, you could say that about that and go, well, technically, just, you know.
I mean, she was very sort of like Nurse Ratched, wasn't she? She was very stone-faced and everything like that. I love the actress who plays her. And I was watching all the time I've watched this film, and I'm like, I recognize that actress who plays Princess Mombi, Jean Marsh. I'm like, I've seen her in something else. And I kept mistaking her for Willow. And then I realized, holy shit, no, she is in Willow. She plays the evil queen witch woman Bavmorda. She's basically exactly the same character as Princess Mombi, and I can't remember when Willow came out, but it must have been literally like a couple of years between this and that film. So yeah, it's interesting how she's both in like two dark fantasy films, essentially playing the same kind of character. But I love the actress. I think she's perfectly suited for it. She's got that very sort of like, sounds like a bit of a diss, but that cruel, sharp looking face, which is perfect for this type of character. I love Mombi's character. I love the costume. I love how over the top it is. She's got like all those spines and jagged spikes coming out of her costume.
And she has heads.
Yeah, let's talk about how terrifying this film is, because I mean, this was something that stuck with me. I think I saw it at an early enough age, and whenever anyone talks about Return to Oz, people usually talk about how the childhood trauma of this film, how scary it is, and it is. It's got some very terrifying imagery in the film, and I think for me, the two things that really sort of like creeped me out, I think is probably the best term, were the Wheelers, which we'll talk about, and Princess Mombi. That scene where she's got to try and get the powder of life and it's all deathly quiet and all the heads are sleeping. And when she knocks it over and the head wakes up, she's like, Dorothy girl. And like the music goes terrifying. You've got this headless woman who's like reaching for her down the corridor. It was terrifying. It still is terrifying. It's creepy as fuck. It's cool though. Yeah. Love all of that stuff with Mombi. I think it's great. Also got a laugh how when she meets up with the Gnome King and he's like, kneel. And he's like, lower. And she lays on the floor and grovels and he's like, lower. And she's just these like 2 foot spikes, like 2 meter high spikes are just sticking out the back. Like, I can't physically get any lower. My costume's too big. It's too high. What about you? What did you think of some of the creepy imagery to this? Do you think it was like a cool tonal change for this film?
I did like it. Was made it very, very, very different from the original. Like you say, it becomes quite kind of difficult to put them in the same boat because of that. I did like the creepy tone. I did prefer it in comparison, in a way. The issue, it's not an issue, but the only thing that I'd say I prefer let me start again. Not the only thing I prefer about the original, but I like the creepy tone and I do kind of prefer it in a way, but I like those creepy kind of weird, like, you know, and I mean, both of us have said that about like Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, how that should have been a match made in heaven. It should have been this creepy thing, but it just really fell short of the mark. And when I say fell short, it was like 10 out of 100 kind of thing. You know what I mean? But it was, you know, it's so that creepy stuff that I say I love, but the thing that it didn't capture, which I know it didn't intend to capture, but the original really did, was, you know, it was started black and white, then it was in color. You know, it was such a magical land, whereas this, it was different, and I prefer realistically the Wizard of Oz, that all magical kind of thing, because that's just it just works so perfectly. But this did well at capturing. But now the kind of world's gone into decline. It's kind of like this, and that was really cool because it went from this, because it was all colorful and magical, and because it started off as a black and white world, it really shone a light on how colorful and magical it was. And then to see this was just like, oh, but now it's not. So I think that really, the contrast was great between them. I really, really like. I mean, my favorite scene would be like with the heads at the, you know, where she meets her and she sees them, and it's because they kind of look at her. I really love things that slightly move, that kind of thing where you like has that kind of.
It's like the uncanny valley kind of thing of it.
Yeah, like, we spoke about it yesterday with when we talked about The Exorcist, like with Silent Hill, where the characters would kind of, they'd move and you'd be like, hang on, and there was 3 before. Like, do you know what I mean? That kind of thing, and it just gets you kind of, and it's weird. It's like, I think I've mentioned this before, but the Strangers, I can't remember if you said you saw that, but there's obviously, you know what the stranger is, the dude with the where they
The
kind of
sack
break.
on his head, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's
yeah,
like a home invasion type thing, is it?
yeah. The second one wasn't as good, but never is. But like the first one,
Apart
it
from
was.
this.
Wow. Yeah, but the first one was so like, because these people like break into their house, but it starts off as little things they do, and it just gets more like deranged. Like it'll be little things like, I thought I left my phone there, and it moved, and she can't find her phone. Then it's over the other side of the room, and she's just like, okay, I didn't put that there, which was really weird because we spoke about this yesterday. When I forgot I left the light on when I got home last night, and I was like, swear I left that off, and I was really confused, and I was like, okay. But yeah, it was just like little things like that. And I remember one thing that I loved, what my favorite shot in that movie was, it was the dude with the sack on his head. It's sort of like she was looking at her phone, and it was like it was dark in the background, and you saw like it was all dark. Then suddenly you see his face there because he stood behind her. Then he suddenly disappears, and that was my favorite thing. I was like, oh, that made me shudder. I was like, that was cool because it was just this slight kind of, if you blink or you were looking at something, you wouldn't see it. But if you see it, it's just really weird. And I love that about like the heads and how like it gave off that similar sort of vibe where it was a bit like, this is kind of strange. They do kind of move, because at first they're these like little, you know, when you go into a hairdresser, little mannequin heads but they're basically like that. And then suddenly it's like one sort of, it doesn't wink at her, I don't think, does it? But it looks at her, smiles or whatever, and it's like,
I think the eyes just sort of like twitch, don't they? Like look at
kind of weird. Yeah, that you just, which to be fair, I remember there was another shot in this a Looney Tunes episode where you get like the eyes of something just kind of move in the kind of like, that's really odd. And it's little things like that. It's that whole less is more thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. I love the tone that's established with Princess Mombi's castle, I guess, her lair, like this very sort of like lavish palace. I think the set design on this especially is wonderful. And Mombi's just
Oreo people though.
No, we don't. No, the Winkies are gone. They're long gone by this point. But even like the music, just the sound, like this opulent palace that she's in, and Mombi's just sort of like sat on a couch on her own, playing like the mandolin, this really sort of creepy melody. I love that. Like I love that sound, like that piece of the soundtrack when we're introduced to Mombi.
Forte, doesn't it? Where he's like, it's that creepy. You know what I mean? The for Beauty and the Beast, the how it's that creepy sort of thing, and it's there, but it's not. I don't know. That again, it's a nice subtle kind of
It's like something's not quite right. You're sort of walking towards this woman, and she's not like chasing after you at this point. It's actually almost more creepy that she's there. She's still playing this creepy tune and like being weird and stuff. It's just adds to this uneasy sense throughout the film, which I think the film maintains all the way through. We're going to get to a few comments now, and then we'll circle back around because there's lots of other creepy shit to talk about this film and great stuff. So Kurt sort of explained a little bit about the book history here. Kurt says, in the book, Dorothy arrives in a land on the outskirts of Oz and teams up with her Oz friends to rescue the royal family of Ev from the Gnome King. They basically took that plot and swapped out the royal family of Ev with the Scarecrow and Ozma. That makes sense. So when they touch a decoration, they say Ev instead of Oz. Oh, okay. Also, the silver slippers don't play a role at all. The Gnome King uses a magic belt. Oh, it is funny in the movie where the Gnome King just shows off his little feet with the ruby slippers on. Like, it's just, I don't know. That's always made me laugh. I know that this like super powerful thing, but it just, makes me laugh. He's like, I look sexy, god damn it. Like, I'm going to wear these ruby slippers. I don't give a fuck. Kurt says, also the queen that changes heads is named Languidia. It's like a very sort of like Welsh name, that, isn't it? If I'm pronouncing that right. Languidia. There's still a Mombi character in the series, but she's different. By the time they made Return to Oz, the books had passed into the public domain, so the rights were irrelevant. You were talking about that yesterday, weren't you, with a lot of the Disney stuff that they're going to be moving into public domain soon.
Mouse himself is just public domain.
And Kurt says, and the eggs weren't actually fatal to the gnomes in the book. The Gnome King just thought they were. So they scare him with some eggs, pelt him with them, and get the magic belt from him in the chaos.
You know what's weird? It's like it's just general shit that harms people in Oz, isn't it? Like water harms the witch.
I was going to bring that up. Yeah, it's a very sort of anticlimactic end to your main villain. We had a pail of water in the first one, and then we've got an egg in this one. Yeah.
Aren't you just looking forward to Wicked, where it turns into a trapdoor and it's no longer a thing?
I'm not ready for that. Not ready for that. I'm gonna hate those films. You watch. I'm gonna be contrarian. Everyone's gonna be losing their shit about Wicked for a month until Avatar comes out, and then guess what? I'm gonna hate that movie too when it comes out. I don't want to hate that film, but it probably is the way that it's gonna go. I
I'd
don't
rather
know.
see Wicked than Avatar. You
Same,
couldn't pay
same
me
actually.
enough money to see Avatar.
I guess I'm on my own for that one then. JDC says some people view this as an official sequel, but even though Dorothy in Return to Oz is younger than the teenage MGM Dorothy, this younger version is a more faithful portrayal to the books age-wise. Yeah, and we were saying that earlier. Definitely, I think this is definitely more in line with the books. From hearing like stuff that you've been mentioning about the book that you read, and Kurt the Gamer about some of the other ones, these books sound like an absolute trip. They sound just so out there and fun and ridiculous that I need to read them.
The first one isn't that, it's not that out there, I don't think, in comparison to some things. But it's that kind of what I like, and this is the thing I've always said about books, which is great, is because you imagine it in your own way rather than what movies show you. I think you can get away with a lot more as well. You can kind of describe something and it's kind of given off like, the author might be like, yeah, this is going to be creepy, but it can pass like for a kid's book because it's like, yeah, but it doesn't have to be. But in a movie, something could happen and it's kind of black and white. It is what it is. So, but as I say, it's because I always thought the best thing with the book was because the Scarecrow can't sleep, he just stands and stares at Dorothy while she sleeps, and I just found that I was like, that's just amazing.
They do give more history to the Tin Man in this film, though, don't they? Which I know you mentioned. It gets super dark because Dorothy mentions, oh, there's a Tin Woodsman. She actually calls him the Tin Woodsman now, which, to my knowledge, is the actual name of the character in the book rather than just the Tin Man. And she says, oh, he like cut off his leg or something, cut off his arm, and it was encased in metal or something like that. She goes into the history of the character anyway, which you absolutely don't get that when you watch that original film. So I like how they... Yeah, it is almost like a Grimm's fairy tale.
In Wicked, because I know in Wicked you get an origin story of everyone.
Yeah. I don't know, that might be a bit too dark for Wicked, perhaps. Maybe they change it, I'm not sure. And we've got Bath Time. Big up, lads. Horrific film, this. Scared the shit out of me when I saw it. You and me both. It definitely had that creep factor to it, but isn't that what makes it good? I think that's what gives it that cult following, that staying power.
What film freaked me out when I was a kid? And it's hands down one of my favorite movies ever now. Kill Bill Volume 1 freaked me out the first time I saw it because the first scene I saw was when Oren cuts the dude's head off and it sprays with blood, and I was like, actually, not what I look. It was again flicking through channels or whatever, and I was like 10 or whatever, and it was just like, what? It was just the first thing, and I was like, okay.
Yeah, because that was 2003, wasn't it? So I was 10 when that film came out, but maybe I was 11 when I got it on DVD. I remember going to HMV, and I was like, I just handed it to my dad or my mum, I can't remember. I was just like, here you go, can't buy this. Can I watch this? Because the trailers looked really cool from what I saw of it on the TV. I wanted to see it.
I remember that was the first movie I became like properly obsessed with.
Yeah.
Like where
you've got to show it all of your mates and everything. Like, oh, watch this, it's great.
I told everyone about it. I was like, you need to see this. This is amazing. And it was and no one got it. No one found it as amazing as me. And I was like, guys, this is fucking incredible. And everyone was like, yeah, but it's confusing. I'm like, what do you mean? No, but this I was like, but I've watched it about 15 times. It's great.
Like I just sort of play the Crazy 88 fight on repeat with that film. Just like, this is amazing. I haven't seen anything like this. This is cool. Hopefully we get that whole bloody affair before the end of the year. That'll be my Christmas present. If Tarantino, please, if you're watching this, he's not, but if he is, I don't care. I'll pay it. I want to see it. A few more comments here. JDC says, I don't think you guys have brought this detail up, but this movie is notorious for terrifying lots of young audiences due to one scene where Dorothy looks around Mombi's personal head collection. We have talked about that now. Maybe we hadn't at the point because I'm sort of, backdated with some of these replies. But yeah, let's talk about some more horrific shit. There's a lot of other comments as well. I will get to everyone's comments, I promise. But we have to keep the ball rolling. We have to keep talking about this film. The Wheelers. God, they terrified me.
They remind me of Heartless.
A little bit, I guess. I tell you what, they remind me of the hyenas from Lion King. You know that bit where Dorothy's sort of backed up against the wall and they're sort of like creeping towards her? It's the bit in the elephant graveyard where... Yeah. And that's the sort of the way they laugh as well really reminds me.
Hyenas actually laugh as well, which I didn't know.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
A few years ago.
But just the way they've got these like really like oversized limbs and the wheels are like their feet and hands. the way they like. There's one thing that I think I find the most creepy about them. I mean, the masks that they wear as well. Actually, I think they're helmets. I always thought they were sort of like masks, but I think when they bring their head down, they've got like a helmet with the face on. But there's one moment where they're sort of calling to each other and they're speaking in their own language, and they almost make this sort of like clucking, like call sound. It reminds me of, like the Velociraptors call in Jurassic Park. Sort of like this, almost like this bark or this screech. I don't even know what you'd call it. But they do that to each other, like they're signaling to each other. It's just really like, oh, like what are these vaguely humanoid people that are part machine and this? Oh, yeah. And I think it's just how they're all coming out of everywhere, and that threat of pursuit that they're chasing her, and she's got nowhere to run, and they could be anywhere around any corner. Obviously, the way that they just like cackle and laugh like the Joker is pretty off-putting as well. But yeah, very, very scary design. And especially because that's one of the first things that she comes into contact with when she comes back to the land of Oz.
Yeah, it's like things have changed. Things are not the same.
Yeah, we're not.
It's very like Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, though. Like when she goes, because the first thing I think she encounters, I can't remember what it is, but there's something chasing her. It's that whole like, oh shit, okay, things are different. Not to mention the Pugsy looking fucking Tweedledum and Tweedledee.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess we need to talk about the Gnome King as well, because I guess he's sort of like terrifying in his own right as well. Absolutely love the actor that they got for this as well. Nicole Williamson, I think is his name.
No, they should have got that guy. Fuck, what's his name?
That doesn't help me out.
He's John Cleese. They should have got him.
Oh,
he would have been great.
Okay.
I don't know why, but I can see him. I can see him doing it.
Apparently, two actors that were considered were Leo McKern and Christopher Lloyd. Doc Brown.
Christopher Lloyd's always been old, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. Yeah. But I'm glad they went with the actor that they did. Like, he's just got such a way of speaking. I don't know if he's sort of like a theatrical actor or not, but very sort of prim and proper voice, and he is also very commanding and terrifying. But just the effects on the Gnome King, that's the stuff that actually coming back to it was the stuff that I was kind of blown away by the most, is how well the claymation has held up, and the stop motion animation. All the stuff with the gnomes, like the faces that animate and report back to the Gnome King, look great. And sort of that steady transformation into the Gnome King becoming more human-like until he's a live-action actor in costume. The claymation stuff looks fucking great. Looks amazing. You imagine how long it must have taken to, especially with how smooth and fluid it is and how detailed. That stuff looks amazing. Loved all of that. I think it's just a really cool villain. And I think that we've seen how terrifying Mombi is, but by the time we get to the end of the film, she's just a lackey. Like, she is terrified of the Gnome King, which I think helps how imposing he is as a villain.
We don't get any of that anymore, though, do we? Like, designs like that, we don't get any of that originality. It's all just CGI, do it on computer.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, like, CGI can be good. Like, I'm not knocking CGI, but I think that's why I like these 80s films.
Because of it, like it just goes one way rather than we can do this. Because the thing is, when you were inventive like that, there's loads of different aspects, those are elements of things you can do. Now it's like, the computer will do it. The computer will do it. It's, I'm waiting for the day the computers go down and everyone goes, shit, what do we do? I don't know. You deal with it.
I do like the visual quality, just the look of 80s films, how they had to think outside the box. And, you could look and go, there's some imperfections here. Maybe that sort of like rear screen projection or like blue screen doesn't look as refined as it does now. Or some of the stop motion maybe doesn't hold up as well, but that's part of the charm for me. That's part of the charm of movie making. And I love it. I'm not knocking CGI because, if you get the Balrog in Lord of the Rings, that wouldn't look as good with like a guy in a costume, or if that was sort of like this Ray Harryhausen. I'm not knocking Ray Harryhausen, I love that stuff as well, but like this stop motion sort of like awkward Balrog in that movie wouldn't look as good as the CGI version that's in that film. It looks fucking outstanding, and it still looks good. So CGI has its place. It's a tool. It's when it's, well, we could do that practical and it could look really good, or we could have this new creative way of doing it, but let's just do it in computers. That's where it starts to get to me a little bit. Feels a little bit soulless, I guess.
Like Avatar, what was it? They could have just used normal water.
Well, that's it. Like, everyone loses their shit about Avatar, and I'm not saying that the visuals in it aren't great. The visual effects artists work really really fucking hard, long hours, you know, the pay and whatnot, the overtime that they do to make it look as good as it does. And it does look good, but there's sometimes I'm just like, well, you could have used a real tree for that. You could have used like an actual like tank of water for that scene, you know, instead of like the millions of hours of render time for one droplet of water that it probably took to make that. It still looks good. It looks nice on the big screen. You know, it's an absolute feast for the eyes, but
maybe if they had done that, we would have got the sequel in 2011.
yeah, maybe. Aren't we lucky? JDC says, do you think that screaming head sequence is on par with the Pinocchio's donkey transformation and Fantasia's Night on Bald Mountain segment in terms of how Disney occasionally shows off their edge?
To be fair, it is, but Disney don't do that anymore. When was the last bit they showed? They just firmly comfortably in the middle.
Yeah, everything's just it's got no teeth now, has it? It's got no bite to it. If we look back, so yeah, I mean, you've mentioned some great examples there. Definitely, I'd say Night on Bald Mountain I always thought was cool, but I know what you mean. There's some like creepy like harpies in there and sirens and skeletons and things like that. It's a very, you know, very, very dark satanic imagery. But that Pinocchio transformation absolutely traumatized me, and it is horrific. And when we did our retrospective, I still feel exactly the same way. Stuff with the magic mirror in the original Snow White, a lot of those earlier Disney films, definitely. But even from around this time period, the Horned King, Black Cauldron in general, is considered one of the darker, more brutal Disney animated classics.
And that is why we'll never get it in Kingdom Hearts.
No. And we won't get a live action remake. Not that I want one, but you could maybe do some cool things with that. They wouldn't. Modern day Disney wouldn't, but yeah.
What I really want is a parody. Like, you know how, did you ever see the trailer Pedro Pascal did for Mario Kart?
Mario, yeah.
I want that. I want a Kingdom Hearts one, right? Where they do some weird live action, like kind of thing on SNL. Like I say, you don't have to do a whole movie, but you just do like a trailer thing. And like Donald and Goofy are played, like you get like a little actual duck following him, and like a fucking like. I think that would be cool. And then you could have these weird, creepy like Disney. I think that would be so cool to see.
It would. Just a Kingdom Hearts anything. TV series, short film,
whatever.
What
apparently a TV series is coming out.
We'll see. We'll see how it is.
The novels are crap.
Mm-hmm. We've got JX who says The Oz Awakens. Whoa. No, this is a much better sequel. This is a much better send-off, I think. And Kurt says, Nicole Williamson did a Hobbit audiobook at one point. It's abridged because it's on vinyl, but it's very good. I have a feeling I might know which one you're talking about. I think it's on YouTube. I think I've heard bits of it. I've never listened to the whole thing because there was a BBC radio play version, which isn't that version, I think. And then there's like an American one, I think. So,
the best
maybe I have heard bits of that.
Best radio play of War of the Worlds.
That was very good. Yeah.
It fucking, everyone believed it, which is great.
Yeah.
That was my favorite thing. I think I learned that in college. I was like, that's the best thing I've ever heard.
Mm-hmm. What other bits do I want to talk about? I love sort of like the final set piece of this film. It's very, well, this came out before, but Indiana Jones, The Last Crusade, where it's like you must choose and choose wisely, because if you pick the wrong ornament, then you get turned to stone. I just remember really liking that whole setup. It felt very sort of like Fable-ish, I guess. That was one of the scenes that always stuck with me. How you're in this room of just, millions of artifacts and ornaments and whatnot, and you've got to pick the correct one. Very, very just like classic fantasy storytelling that. Or maybe even like, sticking with the Hobbit, like going into Smaug's lair and you've got to find this one piece of treasure, the Ark and stuff, type thing.
Isn't Dorothy's hair in this black?
No, I think it's like brown, I think. I think it's like brown.
Maybe it's because also she's got a white dress, hasn't she? She's a bit darker looking.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It just came into my head now. I'm just like, even she's got that kind of different color palette, really, hasn't she?
Yeah, I think, she has like the blue like gown and dress, doesn't she? And I think it's like pink in this, maybe. It's like slightly different.
It's got that,
It's like that live action version of Alice in Wonderland, not the Tim Burton one, the good one from like 1999 with Martin Short as the Mad Hatter. You've got Sir Ben Kingsley in there as the Caterpillar. It's the version you watch, but Alice is in bright yellow. It's my favorite adaptation of that book next to the Disney one. Is who?
Steve Coogan. No, he's not. Steve Coogan is in Alice Through the Looking Glass. They did a fucking Alice Through the Looking Glass sequel thing, and he plays who does he plays a character? But I was watching it, I was like, that is Steve Coogan, which is quite cool.
No, I haven't
Whoopi
seen
Goldberg's in it, isn't she? Yeah, she plays the Cheshire
Cat. Yeah. So initially, just a little bit of behind the scenes on this, only a tiny little bit. So Walter Murch was the director, and he came on board and very, very quickly into shooting. I want to say it was the first week of filming, actually. He was already falling behind schedule, and things were going over the budget, and apparently he just had like a lot of pressure from Disney as a studio. 5 weeks into production, that was it, sorry. And Disney were unhappy with the footage, and they fired him on the spot. And apparently at that time, because it was so much stress and he clearly wasn't having a good time on set, he didn't have any resistance to it. He didn't fight to keep his position as director. He's just like, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm good. I'll walk them. And then 3 massive directors, George Lucas, Francis Ford Coppola, and Steven Spielberg, all apparently supported him, and they were in discussions with the studio and helped Disney reconsider and getting reinstated back as director. Like, that's when you know you've got good friends. When you've got those 3 people in your phone, just like, hey, can you help me out? I don't even know if he like reached out to them because he wanted to keep directing, because I've heard conflicting things. I've heard that he was kind of glad to be let go. So I don't know if just those directors heard about this. But apparently George Lucas said that he would step in as a replacement if he didn't want to come back to direct. We almost had George Lucas directing this movie.
My views on George Lucas are weird. Like, he did something good, but he shouldn't be someone to come in and like. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't
know. I think he'd be suited for something like this.
I don't know. He's very. I don't think he's bad. He's kind of he's very like, he can do good things. But I'm weird with George Lucas because he can do good things, and then look what he did with the prequel trilogy, where he does things where at the same time you're just like, really, we've gone with this now? Like, you did this, and I don't know. I've just always got weird views on him, and he's very sort of like, if it was my thing, and he went, oh, I'll direct that. I genuinely, aside from like, I'm on about if I was already established. I mean, because if I was at this level, I'd be like, yeah, go. Like, do you know what I mean? You become really big. But I mean, if I was already established, big, whatever, and George would say, oh, I'll do this. There is a huge part of my brain that would be like, I don't think I'd want him touching this. I don't know. I've always had really strange views on him and the like, because he's either hit or miss kind of thing.
He is hit or miss. I think he works better when he's surrounded by a team, and you know, it's that more of that collaborative process. But I do think like his spark for storytelling, like he does have,
and he looks like Rolf Harris. A little bit, doesn't he?
A little bit, I guess. So yeah, I mean, when I look at Tik-Tok in this, he is this in between of C-3PO and R2-D2 for me. Like the way that he walks, it reminds me of that shot R2-D2 does. You know, you've got like a little person inside probably controlling it as well. And at the very end, when they go back to Oz and everything's well, and he gets all cleaned up and he's in like this shiny sort of like gold silver armor, it reminded me of C-3PO. I don't know, it just reminded me of that.
Yeah.
Carl says, as a kid, I always thought the pumpkin head guy was real. It couldn't be a man in a costume because the neck was too thin. Such a good film. Yeah, no, I agree. The puppetry is just amazing. I love this cast of characters. I kind of like the way it's shot as well. There's almost moments where it feels like a bit of like a made-for-TV movie in some aspects, but I mean, it didn't. The budget was huge. And then you get like these huge, massive, like opulent sets and whatnot, and the claymation.
It's not easy.
It's very difficult. I haven't done one for a few years. It actually came up like a picture on my feed saying like, this was 5 years ago, and I carved a pumpkin of Gandalf, and I was really proud of it. It was great.
I carved a pumpkin with someone I knew, and there was a couple of us. We carved a pumpkin. They used to different ones, and this kid, so one of my friends, so their daughter looked at. We didn't just get this random kid to review our pumpkins, but this little kid, like she looked at him, she went, "Oh, that's cool because of this," and then, kid you not, the response to mine was, "That was a good effort." And this fucking 6-year-old kid, I was like, "Cool." So yeah, carving a pumpkin is not easy.
It's not.
I'll never do it again.
It's gross as well. Like when you got to take all like the gunky stuff out at the bit.
Oh, that's fine. It's just I can't do art. I can't do art. I'll do something. And I go, it's a bat, and they go, and someone will be like, if you say so.
Yeah. Let's see. JDC says, even though modern Disney has lost its edge when it comes to putting occasional scary stuff in non-horror films, you can find some edge in films outside of Disney, like Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. Yeah, I watched that because it was nominated for Best Animated Feature, wasn't it? Did it? I can't remember if that won Best Animated Feature that year at the Oscars. I did watch it though. I need to watch his new Frankenstein film as well. That's getting pretty good reviews. And you haven't seen Pan's Labyrinth, have you?
No, I haven't.
You'd really like that, I think. That dark fantasy aspect to it. Yeah.
Again, I think Pan's. To be fair, I will at some point soon, but Pan's Labyrinth has turned into what Lord of the Rings was for so long, where people are like, you would. I was like, I know I will.
Right.
It took me 30 years. So Pan's Labyrinth, it's there. It's there. It will happen.
So by me even mentioning it now, I have added like an extra year onto the date that you'll actually get around to watching that film. Because we talked about this yesterday when people say, "Oh, you have to watch this film." It's like, yeah, chill out. I will. I'll get to it.
And then the thing about Pan's Labyrinth, it was a couple of months ago. I actually sat down to watch it because I was in the mood to watch it, and I was like, right, I'm going to watch this. But I was really tired. And
it's a subtitle film. Yeah, no, don't do that.
Yeah, and I was watching it, and I just fell asleep, and I woke up, and the credits were rolling. I went, I'll try again another day. I was just so and I just haven't gone back to it. So it's there, and it will happen. It is
very good.
I'm really intrigued with that though, because that was a movie first, and then they released a book.
Okay.
So I'm intrigued to kind of watch the movie and read the book. Watch the movie first, then read the book like as it was kind of done, and just see the kind of differences. See if the book was better written or anything like that, or if it feels longed out or anything. Because we spoke about yesterday differences between books and movies and I think when you read a book first, movies seem a bit, because like I said, The Exorcist was a great film, but there was a lot where I thought it was quite snappy. And I think that's because knowing the book, and obviously, there's this here, then this here, and it feels a bit slower paced. The movie just felt very like, oh, we cut to this. And I was like, I feel like there was a lot more we should have been seeing. Like, do you know what I mean? So that'll be an interesting one, considering it was the other way around, to kind of see how that was done. I think the original writer was on board for it. I can't remember. I know there was a lot. It wasn't like just some fucking, random dude off the street wrote it. It was literally done really well. So that's one I'm intrigued at. I will watch it. It'll be some point. It will.
There's some great animated films as well that have just come to mind that have that sort of more sinister, darker edge to them.
Neverending Story was quite. That was.
Oh yeah, yeah.
With what's the horse called anyway? I can't.
Artax.
Yeah. See, this I always think Atreyu because Atreyu's the. Do you know what I mean? But I always get them confused because A, you know what I mean. But anyway, but yeah, that was quite dark, quite horrific. And I think the first time I saw it, it was in school. It was when when they put on a video for you, like when you're a little kid, and then just like, oh, we're gonna watch this. And I remember thinking like, oh, we watched a horror movie. Do you know, it was that kind of. We would watch quite a dark movie. Schools are weird like that though, because when I was 11, we had like so we had fucking like half the school, like first school, middle school, that sort of first school, second, whatever it's called. Anyway, and then we were like, 10 years old or 11 or whatever. We had to, or legally, they had to show us like a U-rated movie. They couldn't show us a 12 or anything because obviously we were younger. I think one year, and this was the weird thing about schools, one year they showed us, I can't remember, but it was something like, let's say Toy Story, just because that's a U, Toy Story 2. Something like that. And then the kids in like reception in year one, they showed them Elf. And because that's a kids movie, I'm like, you do realize that movie has swearing in, right? I was like, it was so weird. So schools are really backwards when they show kids things. But I watched that in school for the first time, and that was creepy.
Neverending Story is great. I mean, I love that film to death. It's one of my favorite films from the 80s. Certainly in this genre of like dark fantasy. It's a film that I wouldn't necessarily like to see get a remake, but if you are adapting it from the book, there's a whole second half to that book, apparently, that they don't adapt. So the film ends, spoiler alert, I guess, for Neverending Story, where Bastian is in like the real world and the fucking dragon. Oh my god, what's the name of the dragon? Jesus, what the fuck? How have I forgot the name of the dragon? Falcor. Christ almighty, I'm getting old names. And Falcor comes to the real world and he uses it to like scare the bullies and stuff. There's a whole second half to that where he sort of becomes a tyrant, and the real world slowly starts to like decline. It's either the real world starts to decline, or the more he uses this power, sort of like the land of the never-ending story starts to collapse, and he becomes like the sort of this like tyrannical overlord kind of thing. Like that could be cool. Like, if you're doing like a TV series or something, I imagine that could be pretty good. But yeah, it's a film that I just don't want to see get remade. But I got taken off the subject. The two animated films that came to mind that have sort of like a darker edge to them. Coraline. I don't know if you've ever seen that film, the stop motion
That
one.
looks shit.
No, it's really good. It's really, really good
What's
film.
the one about the banana?
Which one?
The
banana?
No, it's not a banana. It's a dog. Sorry. It's Tim Burton again.
Frankenweenie.
That's it. Why did I think banana? I don't know. But yeah,
that was. I remember that being
okay.
I remember that being all right. What was the other one? And then Leica Productions, Kubo and the Two Strings has that sort of darker, sort of like more mature edge to it in some aspects. It's still a great film for kids, you know, like a family film and whatnot, but it doesn't pull any punches sometimes. It can get violent. It can get a little bit dark and creepy. And it's just that perfect balance, because a lot of the kids' stories, I mean, you've read a lot of them, like a lot of like the Grimm's fairy tales and whatnot, Hans Christian Andersen, they are really messed up. They can be adapted into some wholesome, you know, children's content, but they do have that creepy edge to it. And I think we kind of like that as a kid.
We missed that. We missed having that. Like, we don't get that anymore, and it's a shame.
I remember sort of like being in like little school and the teachers reading like Roald Dahl books and things like that. And there's like an element of tension or danger or creepiness, like whether it's like Willy Wonka or whether it's Danny, Champion of the World. There's always like a moment of suspense in there. And
who's Marvelous Medicine, is it?
George's Marvelous Medicine, isn't it?
Go. Yeah. Was that creepy? I'm trying to remember. I remember there was medicine. The Witches, there you go. That's creepy.
The Witches, yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's a prominent one, isn't it?
Who was in the original movie? But that was a creepy look to the characters and everything. That was done really well.
That was the one who plays Morticia, isn't it? Then they did that piece of shit remake. No, it wasn't Emily Blunt in the newer one, was it? It was Anne Hathaway, I think.
Oh, that's right.
Angelica Houston, that was it, who played the original Grand High Witch.
That was cool.
Rowan Atkinson's in that movie. That's a good film.
He's also in Scooby-Doo.
He is, yeah.
He's also old.
Yeah, I've heard he's doing another Johnny English film at this point. It's like going to be the fourth Johnny English film. It's crazy.
Johnny English comes out on a fucking wheelchair. It's an Aussie. It's an Aussie gig. That's what he does. He comes out on a fucking throne.
JDC says Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio did win Best Animated Feature that year, and Guillermo del Toro himself said animation was ready to be taken to the next step, implying that there'll have been PG-13 animations. I mean, they already have, haven't they? You know, like Akira and some of like the like Ghost in a Shell. I think they're like rated 15 or something. I want to say, like are higher rated animated films.
And by that point, remember, you're allowed to drop one F-bomb in a PG-13.
That's a good point. Yeah. I guess final thoughts on. We haven't talked about the soundtrack. What did you think to the music to this, like the actual score behind it?
Yeah, it was good. It was good. It didn't blow me away. It wasn't this amazing thing that blew me away, but it was good.
Mm-hmm.
I need to be more expansive on my music things for this, because I always go, it's either like or like it's great.
I'm just going to buy you the Lord of the Rings soundtrack for Christmas. Just be like, look, motherfucker, you're going to listen to this in isolation now on its own and appreciate it for the genius that it is.
It was. I was listening to music earlier on the DJ thing on Spotify, and like just playing through some of my stuff, and it was going, okay, we're going to play some classic rock stuff now, and it's playing like Aerosmith and Van Halen. So I was like, cool, I know what vibe I'm in. And then just suddenly, like fucking like Kingdom Hearts music starts playing. I'm like, this ain't classic rock music. I was like, I get it. This is cool. And I listened to one song. I went, this is cool. I was like, you know what? I like this music. Then it did it again. And I went, right, I get it. Good music, but this ain't the vibe we were doing here. It was like, it was so weird. But yeah, I mean, it'll grow on me. It'll grow on me.
Speaking of like, well, the last name of this guy, David Shire, did the music to this. I really like the music to this. I think it's kind of nostalgic to me. It's not like, you know, blowing me away. The soundtrack to the original Wizard of Oz film is obviously much more memorable because it's very sing-songy, and those songs will stand the test of time. But there are some like little motifs in this, like Dorothy's theme, that just kind of like this nice, charming melody. I like the creepy tune that Princess Mombi plays when we first introduced to her. So I think it works for the film. I think it suits the film. I think maybe it's a soundtrack that I potentially need to listen to on its own, but I think it fits the film perfectly. And I guess the last thing I'll say, and I used it for the thumbnail of this video because he died relatively recently, but these are my favorite style of posters. But Drew Struzan's artwork on like these old school posters like that,
Do you know what?
I absolutely love.
It's a similar thing to one Bed Knobs and Broomsticks has got a similar kind of vibe, and Star Wars as well. All the characters are kind of it's kind of like a not a montage. I think that's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. Like
well, he did the poster to that as well, didn't he? He did the artwork for the Star Wars posters.
Yeah, so it's that kind of vibe, which I think is it's that really cool. Which is great, which the sequel trilogy ruined, but you know.
Because now you'll get like you still get sort of like character collages on a lot of movie posters that come out now, but it's all like photoshopped, and I like that artistry, that almost like photorealistic artwork that Drew Struzan did. They're my favorite posters. Just so many classic posters that he did that just like live in my mind all the time. Star Wars, Harry Potter, Indiana Jones.
That is, yeah. Well, the first one anyway. Is the second one like it?
Which one?
Harry Potter.
I think, he might have done the first two. I think like
the later ones weren't, but
yeah.
The second one wasn't. The second one was just all three of them stood there with like the sword. It was a similar vibe, but the first one had the teachers and this kind of.
I thought I did see like an artist rendering of Chamber of Secrets, so I'm not sure if that was like an original.
But the first one
definitely.
Because every person on that poster over the age of 18 is dead.
Well, over the age of 18, Daniel Radcliffe isn't. Oh, you mean on that poster? Sorry, on that poster.
So every adult there is dead now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I know. Shit. I don't know. Quirrell's on the poster, isn't he? He's not dead.
Is he on the poster?
I can't remember.
Okay, most are dead.
Not sure. Most of, nearly. Right. Final thoughts on Return to Oz then. Would you give this a recommendation? How would you compare it to the original, or does it stand on its own?
I would recommend it 100%. I think it is a great movie, but I would say it stands on its own more because I can see if you love the original why you wouldn't like this. I can also see if you don't like the original why you would like this, and that's why it's like to forget that. Just this is good. If you like the original, watch this. This is cool. But it is a bit different. If you don't like the original, cool, watch this. This is great. Like, do you know what I mean? It does stand on its own in that sense. I think it works as a good sequel because of the tonal shift and because of the kind of story. I think it does really, really work. I think it is good to view them together. I do think they are good. They do go together. I just think it is overall more its own thing. But yeah, 100% recommend.
Yeah, I remember that initial confusion of watching this thinking, well, this is meant to be a sequel and it kind of is, but it's almost totally different. And then before I knew it, the Wheelers are in the movie and Mombi, and then I just kind of got swept up in this adventure. And I very quickly sort of separated the two in my mind and did see it as that separate entity. That being said, I can unfortunately understand why this didn't make its money back. I mean, I don't know if this was advertised all that well. I don't know if this, the publicity for this film was a little bit lackluster. But I think if people are sitting down to watch this film, they are, for no fault of their own, probably expecting more of the same from that original film. And that absolutely isn't what this is. I am glad that it has found a cult following now. And I think it definitely did find an audience. It certainly has in a lot of the comments tonight and with us as well. And I think that darker edge has helped shape the film and give it an identity of its own, and childhood trauma aside, has allowed this film to stay in our mind and still have that good connection with it. And it's without a doubt one of my favorite fantasy films in general, but certainly of this decade. Like the 80s was so good at those style of fantasy films. Falls right in there with Labyrinth, as we mentioned, and Neverending Story. That's like the holy trinity for me of 80s fantasy films, I think. JDC, just before we finish, says, now that you mentioned Drew Struzan's posters for the movie, have you ever noticed that the Gump's head looks more like a realistic elk's head than the Muppet-like moose in the actual movie? Yeah, it does a little bit, actually. Let me just bring that picture up again. See what we think. Yeah, I guess it does look a little bit more realistic, doesn't it? The elk head. Maybe they changed the design. I don't know, but I don't know. It still works for me. It's a wonderful film. Right, I think we're going to round it off there. So I actually need to type this in because I forgot when this came out. Yes, next week. What's the Wizard of Oz film that we're talking about next week? We are jumping all the way to 2013. And we're talking about the Sam Raimi film Oz the Great and Powerful. I have never watched this film. I believe that you haven't watched this film either, so that's going to be very interesting. A first time watch for both of us.
Well, isn't there?
What?
The week after. I'm trying to remember what it is.
Wicked Part 1.
I thought there was a 4. I thought there was 4, and then okay. I thought there was 4 and then Wicked.
No. It's just we'll do 5 in total.
Okay.
So Oz the Great and Powerful. I'm a big Sam Raimi fan. Actually, on Halloween night, I watched Evil Dead Rise, which Sam Raimi didn't direct, but he did produce, and it's kind of like his baby, right? Evil Dead. So it'd be interesting to watch a non-Evil Dead or Spider-Man film from Sam Raimi. There we go. Seaworld straight in saying the 2013 one is a good one. So I guess we'll see. That's going to be next week.
Yeah, I mean, Mila Kunis was also in American Psycho 2, so...
so could go either way. And then also, in case you're not sick of us already, I mean, we streamed yesterday, Exorcist. We streamed tonight, The Return to Oz. And tomorrow we'll be going live again for our Studio Ghibli retrospective. It's really difficult to get all these films in this week, I must admit. But we're going to be live. We'll be talking about From Up on Poppy Hill, which is the 2011 Studio Ghibli film. Once again, both of us haven't seen that one. So if you're following our Studio Ghibli retrospective, that's actually probably been one of my favorite retrospectives we've done on the channel. So many new films that I haven't seen before, and it's great working our way through them. And we're pretty much coming up towards the end of that soon. I think we've got like maybe a month, just slightly over a month on those films, and they're all done and dusted. So we're nearly there with it. So we're going to be live with Studio Ghibli films every Wednesday. And then we're probably going to snap back to Monday now next week, I think, for Oz the Great and Powerful, aren't we? We're going to snap back to our
the only difference is with Exorcist.
Yeah. So check us live tomorrow, and then next week, if you're in it for the Wizard of Oz stuff, next Monday is when you can expect our review for Oz the Great and Powerful. I just want to finish by saying, if you're discovering this channel for the first time, let us know your thoughts on Return to Oz, some of your stories with the film, and please do consider subscribing to the channel for more movie reviews, discussions, and live streams. We've got plenty of other videos coming up. We're already planning retrospectives and videos for next year as well. Dale, I know you pitched another retrospective to me earlier, so we're always coming up with ideas. And if you guys want to see anything specifically, if you want to see us like change it up or any video suggestions, do let us know as well, because we always take your opinions on board as well.
We should do a Kevin Spacey retrospective.
Oh no. The thing is, there would be some really good films in that retrospective. That's what kills me. You know, we'd have Seven, we'd have LA Confidential, The Usual Suspects. We have some great movies in that. We have A Bug's Life. But I forgot
probably
not. Probably not. But a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in tonight. You know, we've had loads of people sign in tonight, and we always appreciate your viewership and keeping the conversation going with us. So thank you very much. We'll see you guys hopefully tomorrow night for some Studio Ghibli. Take care, everyone.